Expository Exultation is the name of this book on preaching with the subtitle Christian Preaching as Worship. And I regard it as a lifetime of effort both to understand preaching and to do preaching distilled into one place. And let me just say a word about the title, because the title, even though it's a mouthful, Expository Exultation, not exaltation. Even though it's a mouthful, I wanted this title because that is my definition of Christian preaching. And the expository piece means God has spoken. God has spoken through a book. He has ordained that this book be understood, loved, obeyed, be transforming through human beings who teach and preach that book. It has a meaning. The meaning needs to be understood by human minds. And he has ordained that some people called pastors and teachers devote large amounts of their time studying and praying and digging at that meaning, like Luther said, pounding their head against it where necessary until they see the glorious things in the book, and then stand up and tell people and show people in the book where they got them. That's expository, so that people come away knowing God said that, not just the pastor. And then the other piece is exultation, expository exultation, meaning that preaching is not a second half of the service after worship. Preaching is worship. Preaching is the pastor not just explaining the text, but exulting over the text. A preacher is a person who doesn't just stand up and dispassionately tell you meanings of texts. He's a person who's seen so much glory that he exults, which I take to mean not just the kind of emotions that respond to positive things like joy and redemption, but negative things like hell and hate in the world. And his emotions should correspond to that, weighted down, tearful, and correspond to this, joyful, exulting. And so expository exultation is a whole person responding to the mental or intellectual dimension of the Bible as real communicated truth that human beings need to understand, because you will know the truth and the truth will set you free, and the worth of that truth, the beauty of that truth, the glory of that truth, which beholding we are being changed from one degree of glory to the next. So I like the words, our people need to see the glory of God in the texts, and they need to savor the glory of God in the texts, and they need to then live lives to show the glory of God in the world. And the preacher's task is to go before them. He is seeing it, and God's called him to see more, because he has more time, and he's praying down a special anointing, and to savor intensely, and then to stand in the pulpit and show what he's seen and exult or savor it in such a way that the people are drawn into that transforming experience. So my prayer is that the book not be a manual of technique, but that it be an explanation and an exultation over the very act of preaching.